Dear friends, I'm glad to welcome you. Today we'll embark on an incredible journey through time, ideas, and human experience to explore one of the most fascinating and profound questions: the relationship between science and Christianity. These two spheres, rational inquiry and spiritual search, often seem far apart. But if we look deeper, we'll find not only contradictions, but also many points of intersection that helped humanity develop. When Christianity first emerged, its main focus was on spiritual truths, on the search for meaning and moral guidance. Yet even the early thinkers asked, how is the world arranged if it is created as an orderly and rational design? Origen, Augustine, Basil the Great, and other church fathers wrote that nature is a kind of book in which one can read the manifestations of the divine plan. Later in the Middle Ages, monasteries became the guardians of knowledge. Monks copied ancient texts, built the first libraries, taught the art of calculation and astronomy. In monasteries, the first medical practices also developed: treatment with herbs, care for the sick. From these centers grew the first universities: Bologna, Paris, Oxford, and all of them initially formed within the framework of Christian culture. Thus, contrary to the stereotype, the Middle Ages were not so much a dark age as a period of preservation and accumulation of knowledge. Christian civilization laid the foundation for the future flourishing of science. The situation changed during the Renaissance, and especially in the 17th century when the scientific revolution unfolded. New methods of research appeared: experiment, systematic observation, mathematics as the universal language of nature. Galileo, Copernicus, Kepler, Newton. These names entered history as symbols of progress. But with discoveries came tensions. Galileo faced trial because his views on the Earth's motion around the sun contradicted the accepted interpretation. Giordano Bruno, who spoke of an infinite universe, also clashed with authority. Yet it's important to remember, many scientists were people of faith. Kepler believed he was discovering the geometry God had built into the world. Newton wrote more on theology than on physics, and considered his laws as a key to understanding divine order. Pascal, as both mathematician and philosopher, reflected on the human heart, which has its reasons that reason does not know. Thus we see a duality. Science and faith sometimes clashed, yet also inspired one another. One paradox is that Christian thought itself prepared the ground for science. The idea that the world is created as orderly and rational inspired the search for natural laws. In many pagan traditions, the cosmos was viewed as chaotic, ruled by the whims of the gods. Christianity, however, affirmed, the world is rational and humans can comprehend it. This faith in harmony motivated scientists. Kepler said, "I am thinking God's thoughts after him." Science was not seen as an alternative to faith, but as its continuation. If we highlight the key points where science and Christianity coincided, we can name these: the pursuit of truth. Both science and faith sought truth, but by different paths. The value of reason. Christianity affirmed that reason is a gift, therefore it must be used. Moral guidance. Science gave knowledge while Christianity helped discuss how to apply it. The image of the human. Christianity spoke of the human as a unique being, and science as a being capable of exploring the world. The philosophy of science teaches us that science answers the question how, while religion often seeks to answer the question why. These are different levels of explanation. Science describes processes. Religion gives them meaning. In the 13th century, Thomas Aquinas argued that reason and faith do not contradict one another if their boundaries are properly understood. This principle became one of the bridges between science and Christianity. Today, the world has changed. We face challenges unknown in the past: genetic engineering, cloning, artificial intelligence, space exploration. These fields of science not only open new horizons, but also raise questions that go beyond the purely rational. For example, to what extent can we interfere with the human genome? What does it mean to be a person in the age of artificial intelligence? Where is the boundary between technological progress and the risk of losing our humanity? These questions cannot be solved by equations and experiments alone. Ethics is required. And Christian tradition offers value-based guidance to help avoid dangers. Today, scientists and theologians increasingly meet at conferences to discuss bioethics, ecology, the philosophy of consciousness. Environmental issues are a particularly vivid example. Science speaks of climate change and the risk of biodiversity loss, while Christian thought reminds us of humanity's role as stewards of the earth. There are also historical examples. Catholic priest Georges Lemaire proposed the idea of an expanding universe, later known as the Big Bang Theory. His life proves that faith and science can coexist in one person without contradiction. Of course, disagreements remain. Science fundamentally avoids appeals to the supernatural. It works only with what can be observed and tested. Christianity, on the other hand, speaks of a reality beyond the visible. This tension is especially sharp in the question of human origins. The theory of evolution explains the development of life through natural processes. Christian tradition affirms that humans are created as unique persons bearing an image. For some, this is conflict. For others, it is an opportunity for synthesis. God works through the processes of evolution. Here we see an important philosophical point. Science and religion are two different languages that humans use to describe reality. Science gives a map of processes, religion sets the coordinates of meaning. Together, they can form a fuller picture. In the 21st century, the relationship between science and Christianity is increasingly understood as cooperation. Science needs ethics to guide discoveries. Faith needs openness to avoid being frozen in the past. Together, they can create a culture in which knowledge and meaning go hand in hand. One might say, science without ethics risks becoming a tool of destruction, while faith without science risks becoming closed tradition. But together, they help humanity not only to understand the world, but also to preserve it and to find our place in it. So we have seen that the history of science and Christianity is complex and layered. There were times of conflict and confrontation, but also centuries of fruitful cooperation. They are united by the pursuit of truth, the care for humanity, and the search for harmony with the world. Ultimately, this is not a battle, but a dialogue. Not two enemies, but two dimensions of the human spirit. Science explains how the universe works. Christianity helps to understand why it exists and what role humans play in that design. Dear friends, thank you for joining me in this reflection. I hope this journey helped you see the relationship between science and Christianity in a deeper and richer perspective. Thanks for your attention, and see you next time.